This is a tutorial for making these graphs into a standalone applique to be put on a t-shirt pocket. Be sure your fabric is pre-shrunk before attaching the applique and wash and dry it inside out. The more negative space in a design, such as a gap between two flowers or a long downward beak, the more separate pieces you will have to attach. Typically, a shirt pocket sits on the right side of a shirt. If it makes sense for your design to have the graphic facing the center, you should follow the instructions in the pattern to mirror the graphic by working the orientation given as the wrong side. Start and end with long tails for seaming on every color that will be on the edges. When the graph starts with a wide and flat base, such as the bird necks, begin with a chain of the number of stitches shown plus one more. Work into the second chain from the hook to start row 1. This is a good time to double check that it'll fit inside the pocket. When the graph shows separate pieces, they'll need to be worked separately. But they can be incorporated together when the rows touch again. Some graphs are started together, but you will need to pull up a new loop for each new part. When the graph shows several rows of a single stitch, such as on the stems, work the bigger part of the graph first. Then pull up a chain of twice as many rows shown and slip stitch back down the chain and fasten off behind the bigger part. When the graph shows embroidery lines, using your sharp yarn needle, add the same embroidery at the end. When the graph shows one or two single stitches on their own, such as the baby's breath flowers, these will be worked as French knots, wrapped 3 times. For the French knot, bring your needle and yarn completely up from the fabric in the area where you would like the knot to be. Working close to the fabric, wrap the yarn over the needle 2 to 3 times and push the needle down into the fabric a few millimeters above where you came up. Go slow and make sure the yarn doesn't get tangled on its way through. When the graph has 1 or 2 more stitches on the next row, such as a slight rounding of a bird's head, work half double crochet increases. When the graph has over 2 more stitches on the next row, such as a protruding beak, either end with a chain on the current row to use for the next row if that will be the first thing you come to, or work a foundation half double crochet for however many stitches needed if it'll be the last thing you come to. For the foundation half double crochet, begin in the same loop you last worked into, yarn over, pull up a loop. This loop represents the foundation chain. Yarn over and pull through foundation chain loop only. With plenty of slack, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops, and that's the first half double crochet foundation chain. For the next one, yarn over, insert hook into the V of that last foundation chain, pull up a loop. This loop represents the next foundation chain, and repeat from this point on the last stitch. When the graph has 1 or 2 fewer stitches on the next row, such as a slight rounding down of a bird's head, work half double crochet decreases into either the front loops only, or the back loops only, whichever are on the face of your work. When the graph has more than 2 fewer stitches on the next row, such as a drastic rounding down of a bird's head, either slip stitch until the next half double crochet, if that'll be the first thing you come to, or simply stop the row at however many stitches needed if it'll be the last thing you come to. Place the embroidery hoop on the fabric and tuck the applique into the pocket so that it is a few rows deep, but not so deep that you can't access the bottom of it. Using the tails or a new needle and thread, you will attach the applique by going down into a stitch or row and through the fabric, and then back up through the fabric and out of the next stitch. Continue around, and when you get to the end of your yarn or the end of your current color, bring it up through the fabric at the edge of the applique, loop it through the edge of the applique to knot it, and then weave the tail into the back of the applique and cut it off. If it's the very last tail you're weaving in, you can pull it with a little tension at the end and cut it off through the face of the applique, and when you stretch it out a little bit, it should retract inside the applique and be hidden. Thanks so much for watching. I'm really excited to see what you come up with.